I'm rounding up.
So I introduce you.
Getting a sense of who the reasonable people are. You're going to head off. I was wondering what the debate is.
All right. So,
Name change.
yeah. So what we're doing, right? We're just going to start
In Islam.
We're going to start something called Our Corner, right? As your welcome guest. So it's going to be two topics, but the first topic, just because you're here, is about name changing, right, and identity, right?
Content over everything.
So welcome to Our Corner. We're going to do it a bit different today. We've got a guest here, Jordan. Yeah. And what I want to discuss is identity and more specifically name changing. Now you find there's many people of African American descent or Caribbean descent who might convert to different ways of life. And when they do, they might change their name. And I want to see what is the motivation between the name change. Now, Jordan has recently, within the last year, converted to Islam.
Yeah.
But Jordan himself actually hasn't changed his name.
No.
Now, for the beautiful cameras and the bright lights, explain that process, just so we can understand.
Yeah, so I converted about 9 months ago, and to be honest, I did have an Arab name in mind because I was reading scriptures and things like that. But for me, and one of the things, I know your brother Hamza who comes down here, so he's sort of been like a mentor to me, and he actually has an Arab name, but also has kept his English name as well. Which is interesting.
Has that, okay.
But one thing he's always encouraged, and I think it's important for any revert, is that you're converting to Islam. You're not becoming an Arab. So whilst obviously you're going to pray in Arab, there are going to be certain parts that are going to be it. For me, I'm still a British geezer.
Yeah.
I still, obviously, there are certain things I can't do now. Now I'm a Muslim, but I don't need to give up my identity as a white person. So I am a British Muslim.
So you're white, British, English.
So yeah,
Muslim.
and so out of respect for my mum, and also I think just even for, why do I need to be called? Why do I need an Arab name? And I think even for dawah purposes, I think people for me being a British person, still being Jordan.
Yeah.
That sends a message that I don't need to be whatever name it is to.
So, but the interest of how it becomes Our Corner is when.
What is Our Corner?
So Our Corner basically is a segment we set across for the African and Caribbean community or the Black collective community to discuss issues that directly affect Black people. And week to week we try to have maybe two topics. So the first topic is identity in the sense of we have Black people who become strongly affiliated with other cultural groups, which is fine. But then, do they lose a lot of their identity when it comes in like the naming and dressing process, right?
Yeah.
So you, as a European white English gentleman, you've found Islam has made your life wonderful. But despite this, you recognise that your name is still important, the name your mother gave you.
Yes.
So the conversation I'd like to start is if there's any Black Muslims out here who converted to Islam and they picked their name, what was in the picking of the process? Like, did any of them actually look to see where they came from biologically? Are they from Africa? Are they from the West Indies? What was the name process that made them pick? But obviously no one's here, right?
Yeah,
so
I wonder if, obviously for me, I had very good guidance. I wonder if people think it is obligatory, because it's only if your name disagrees with Islam somehow that you have to change it. Otherwise, it's not obligatory. I don't know, some reverts may be in the dark, and you see some reverts dressing, for the first period of their conversion, dressing like an Arab, changing their name, and all of a sudden they calm down a bit.
Yeah. Bro, you get man? Yeah, come, we'll start something, right? So we're starting 2 points, right? The first point we're dropping here, right, is we're asking that when Black people convert to new cultural ideas like Islam, so it's not a new idea, but when they become Islamic, many of them take new names, right? The question is, this brother, his name is Jordan, he's converted to Islam, but he still remains his European name. So the question I'm asking is, why is it so many people from Africa, from the African Caribbean community, African American community, why did they take Arab names? And is identity in picking the name important or not so? All right? I don't know if you've got any information on this. The real people who should step forward really are the Black Muslim community, but they might not be
enough of them. There's loads of them.
Yeah, they don't want to step forward.
I'd like to know from people, because to me the name change doesn't see. I know you see it as significant, and I've admitted that I want to keep my. But obviously, I do know some white Muslims that have changed their name, and it hasn't necessarily meant they've left behind their heritage. But I get your point, and it'd be good to hear from it. I don't know how much significance the name change is.
Well, it's identity. Isn't it? It's like, I'm going to call you something, and by calling you something, I understand that name might have a history in Europe or maybe in the Middle East, but generally, for the most part, it's a European identity, right? And even how you dress and how you present yourself. You seem to come across it. I would never necessarily know unless you told me, right?
Yeah.
But many Afro-Caribbean communities, they want people to know. I'm not saying wanting people to know you're Islamic is a good thing. I understand that you value it and support you. But then, where's the distinction between where it's like you want people to know and you're literally becoming another culture?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what I'm saying is, there's not necessarily bad with that, right?
Yeah.
But if someone has such a low self-esteem or so disconnected from the traditional culture, I had no idea about it, then naturally anything that comes along.
Yeah, I get you.
But one of the other problems I might have as well is when it comes to connecting with brothers and sisters like that, they might be so affiliated with other cultural groups that they no longer see themselves like, you don't dress like me, you don't sound like me, don't have the same name, and becomes very problematic. While people from your community seem to be doing it quite well. Like, you know, I suspect you still talk quite a lot with other Europeans who are Christian and non-Christian, right? So this is the interest for why I come. This is why I talk about it. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. You said you chose to preserve the white identity when you became a Muslim. What value did you see in white identity?
To be honest, I just saw it as me. So it wasn't anything conscious as I want to keep these certain values. I'm still me. I'm still Jordan. That was my. There wasn't a conscious thing about I want to make sure I still do this. Make sure that ultimately my guide is now from Islam anyway. But there are still things that obviously that I've been raised with, and certain things I still like that are part of my. I wouldn't say it's white or it's just me. I've grown up in this country.
It's cultural, right?
It's cultural. Yeah. It's cultural.
But from the research I've come across, I see that whiteness, the whole concept of being white, because you're not white, are you?
No,
you're not actually white.
No.
Yes. So whiteness is a belief, it's a concept.
Okay.
So how does whiteness fit in with Islam? Can you be white and Muslim?
But you just said I'm not white.
Well, you said you're white, yeah?
No,
That's what you believe.
What was your point about me not being exact? I'm not the same colour as your hat. Is that the point you were trying to make?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, technically, you're not the same colour as my hat.
Yes.
Right? Which is white.
Yes.
So therefore, whiteness, or when you use the word white, it's not to do with the shade,
okay.
is it?
Okay. So can you briefly tell me what you mean by whiteness?
Well, that's what we're going to go into now.
Yeah. Because I've got a question I think for you, Raven, later as well.
Okay.
Yes.
But,
So you. I'll deal with that shortly. But you said you're white and you're Muslim. So tell me how you're white and Muslim. What is whiteness?
I think what I meant was British Muslim, but I think would I call myself a white Muslim? I guess I still would.
Right. Yeah, that's what you said earlier.
So what is whiteness for me?
Are you white before you're Muslim?
No. So now I'm Muslim first.
So you shifted. You was white first.
What do you mean?
Well, you was a white. You saw yourself as a white person.
Yeah.
And then you converted to Islam.
Yeah.
But you still wanted to preserve white identity.
Yes.
So I want to understand what is white identity, and then how does that fit with Islam or being a Muslim?
So yeah, it's a tough question to answer. I don't really. I think I know where you're going with this, and I'll try and answer it as best I can. So obviously, I have said a British Muslim or white Muslim, which to me just means that I've grown up in the Queen's England. I've grown up with values that I don't know if you'd call it white, but I've grown up with British values, some of which I can still hold. Obviously, some of which, if it contradicts with Islam is the priority. I've had to go with that. Am I answering your question at all? Or? Why don't you send me what you mean by whiteness then? Because I feel like this conversation is going to go somewhere.
Well, it will go somewhere.
Sure it will.
We're getting there slowly. We go that step by step.
Yeah. Are you the guy that's got the IC3 and IC4?
Yeah.
Well known as brother about the codes.
The codes. Yeah.
He's got all the codes,
State codes. So this issue of whiteness. So you classified yourself as a white person. So I'm trying to understand how or what values you see in whiteness, because you chose to maintain your white identity and being Muslim. So you see yourself as a white Muslim.
Yeah. Well, what else could I be? So as I've converted to Muslim, what else can I be?
We're talking about your
Muslim.
name, right?
I think originally we were, but I think now we're going into more.
No. We're still talking about your name.
Okay, use of
Because your
my name.
identity is being kept and retained by the
Yes,
mention
yes,
of
yes.
your name, right?
Yeah. So name. You took focusing on name.
Yeah, so because it's our corner, the focus is on name, and the reason why Jordan is a guest there is because he's done something that many Afro-Caribbeans and African Americans don't do, as in he's converted to a new cultural idea, a new religious standpoint, and he hasn't changed the naming of himself towards the founders of that particular cultural identity, right? As in Islam was given to the Arabs,
Yeah.
so a lot of people look there for all their kind of like guidance, and black people are no different. And I was interested in how he did that, and I wanted to talk to black people who have changed their name, but usually they usually stand in the shadows, so they won't come forward. Which is fine.
Yeah.
But
So you're kind of hinting that maybe
Value system. It's
yeah,
talking about value now.
and-
That you
yeah.
valued your name enough
Okay.
to keep it.
yeah.
And I think where
And you
you're
value
go-
your identity, white identity,
Yes.
enough to keep it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. That's
Okay.
fair enough.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
and so I guess what we're trying to learn from it is that whatever was going on in your mind, how can we have the black brothers value their identity and their name so they can embrace Islam
Yeah, no, I
and be
get what you're
wonderful
saying.
and
I
help
get
the
what you're
world, but also still retain their past culture?
So would you say that a white Muslim who does change his name is less proud of his whiteness than I am?
Well, he would have to come and
That's
define
right.
what the reasons
Yeah.
behind stuff, right? So, because that talking is important, but that could be argued,
Yeah.
Because you seem to have a strong identity coming
Yeah.
into this, right? Like some people who are looking for not just Islam but religion in general, some people are quite lost, right?
Yeah.
In a sense of, and they're looking for something constructive to give them guidance. And obviously, if they see an
Yeah.
Islamic community that's well, it's like that's working.
Yeah.
So when they go into that, because they're coming from somewhere of nothingness,
Yeah.
before they perceive it, everything they're taught, they'll just
launch
take.
into
Yeah,
it.
I
They'll
agree
launch
with
into
that.
it.
And one
Now-
thing I will say about Islam is, when I go to a masjid or a mosque, I will stand by black people, brown people, white people, and when you become Muslim, there is all of a sudden that you see race and colour less. It definitely is that.
Do you think
So
that?
whilst I've kept mine, yeah, I do believe that. So I now speak to black people more than I have. I've spoken to obviously a lot more Asians than I ever have. All of a sudden, you're part of a community that doesn't recognise race. I'm not saying there isn't.
Well, this is a good.
there
this-
isn't things
Well, this is a
involved
good
in there.
dynamic because how you're speaking as a European, a white identified person, might be very different from a black revert.
I agree.
Right, and this is interesting because
I would like to know that too.
This is why it'll be very good for a black Muslim to
Let's
step
go
forward.
find one.
Well, I'll be very happy if you could. But I
Well,
suspect
I've
they'll stand
heard,
a chance.
I've heard black people. I've heard black people say to black Muslims, go back to your Arab slave masters. I've heard that
Right.
kind of rhetoric.
Right, why do you think that happens? Where do you think that comes from? Could it be connected to the identity thing we're talking about?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So
So when a black person converts to Islam,
Yeah.
obviously all of a sudden they may have, I wouldn't say less affiliation, but rather than considering themselves just in the black community, they may see themselves as part of a wider.
And there are a group who do this. This is correct, but there are also a group who pretty much completely disassociate.
Yeah.
And they identify black as negative or unworthy to be around. And this is the challenge we face. Right? And you will see me, and you'll see me speaking, and you'll see many come up and give their 10 pence piece. Right?
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting when I look at the European community. This is not similar.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily seeing
That
this
be
from.
because just one thing I'll say, black community generally, if they don't have a strong connection to their background, their culture,
Yes.
then they have nothing to sort of fall back on. So when they become Muslim, they just see Islam.
Yes.
If they have a strong culture, like say Nigeria or Ghana, if they know the history and their ancestors and all these things, then they're more likely to stick by the name.
Well, this is the hope.
It's like Jordan.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, if they're from Nigeria and so forth, they would have been born into a Muslim community naturally, probably. Africa.
I think it's 50-50, isn't it, Nigeria?
Yeah, but I think with Africa, there is a strong Muslim presence. Like with the Caribbean, it was colonized more so by Christians.
We need to
right?
get black Muslims. The other thing I would say
They
about
won't step forward.
No,
They won't
the
step
white
forward.
Muslims that I do know as well have the ones that have changed their name, like you said, have actually kept their English name still because you can do both. You can, for instance, you can be Chris and still have Isa attached to your name. Or you can still.
How do you manage to guys but you're half flexible?
So, you mentioned culture. So, is Islam or do Muslims have a culture that is separate from white and black culture?
Good question.
Shared beliefs.
See, for me, I always try and separate the two because Islam isn't a culture to me.
Islam's without culture.
Yeah, well, because you've got obviously one thing as a revert I've tried to do is I notice certain things that maybe Asian Muslims do, perhaps black Muslims. So they'll do certain things that are their culture rather than Islam, and I try and separate them. Yeah, does that make sense?
So you try and separate Islam from...
Islam is there, isn't it? Islam is Islam is to me is obviously the truth and God's word and things like that. So to call it a culture doesn't seem right, but obviously in our countries we have different cultures, don't we?
Okay.
Which can make people act differently, or certainly from the countries they're grown up.
Right. Okay. So
for instance, we're talking about your view on homosexuality or your view towards women. These could be affected by your culture, and it may look like, people may say, oh, look at the way the Muslims treat it, but it may actually not be Islam. It may be the fact that they are from a certain part of the country.
Right, so you could have a gay Muslim.
You can't. But
You can't have a gay Muslim.
No.
Oh, here's what it is, right? Because it's our corner, because it's a major topic, we could go down gay Muslim.
That needs to be talked about.
We can, and we can.
Gay people can become Islam, but if you're not to practice, so therefore you're not gay. But you still may have the tendencies.
If I was to say that, could you be a murdering Muslim?
Exactly. It's like me calling myself an alcoholic Muslim or something. I can't.
But then,
it's not.
but isn't a Muslim someone who accepts God as one and accepts Muhammad as a sealed prophet, right? Therefore, meaning. That means you can't really take them out of the fold. But we don't go into Islam. It's more about identity. I think that's really good. But in order for this conversation to progress, we need to have other people who's going to join in to talk about identity and the topic of joining new cultures and changing your name from the black perspective.
While we're waiting, can I go into something? I got a question for you.
Couldn't find one.
Is it connected to black history?
Yeah, it is. No, because I've been watching the COE. I've been watching Leon's COE. There's been a lot of things on Black history that I've watched. I've learned a lot about Marcus Garvey. I've actually been watching a lot of them. And I was on a stream the other day, and I think there's a guy called Shaka Ra.
He's not here today, but
no. So he was talking about it, and all of a sudden it seemed quite reasonable, and all of a sudden it got a bit heated. And he said the white man, and he kept saying the white man, the white man. So I put a comment in saying, what is the white man? Am I the white man? Because I generally wanted to know, when a black person is saying the white man, am I part of the conversation?
You are.
So that's what I wanted to know. So I had different. Shaka ignored me.
It's a yes or no. So it's a yes or no. So basically, as I identify, as I see it. If they're talking about in an oppressive state, they're talking about the white historical power structure that has clearly divided people based upon race. Yes. So when black people talk about freedom or retribution or things done to them, when they say the white man, they're talking about that power elite. Now you don't have any direct power now to oppress anyone, but you might have benefited from it. But you want to be directly they're talking about, but you might be connected through affiliation of the past and so forth. Right? Yes. But they're not thinking of you. Okay. They're thinking of the power elite.
I think that's what I was trying to look for, because obviously I think it's quite good if white people are watching these streams as well. And I think if the terminology is the white man, you may turn white people off from watching it. And I think it's quite important messages to white men. I mean, Shakira made a point in the comments was that why should we change our terminologies for the white man as well, and he went on to say that.
Oh yeah, and
I do get these.
We can unfold that. Yeah. So what it's like, this is how people speak, but there has to be a truth in what someone's saying, right? And I think because so many days go by, so many years go by, we forget the truth of what someone's saying. So for example, there was a time where there was a divide, right? Where it was you're white or black, and being white meant you had certain legal rights, and being black meant you didn't. Yeah. So in that sense, all this language comes from there. So the white man comes from that. There was a clear divide. Yeah. Now today, if we see a legacy of that process, they're going to use the same language. For example, you might hear people use the term cracker, right? Now, a lot of people think cracker is like a variant of nigger or so forth. Right? When in reality, what cracker is defining is the man who used to have the cracker whip, right? Yeah. And he used to whip it on the slave's back. So when someone calls someone a cracker, they're referring to that you're still keeping that slave mentality in mind. Yeah. So it's a different analogy, a different concept connected to an actual thing. Yeah. And I think white man or the white man, because at the same they didn't say the white woman, did they?
No.
See, so what I'm saying is it's the white man, it's the white power structure.
My assumption was they were talking about historical people, but I wanted that clarified. And I do speak to black people, and sometimes I do wonder, because I recognise that in this society we live in, there is institutional racism.
Right.
There are still things happening from history that are repercussions that have gone, and I see all that happening. And and sometimes you speak to a black person and you feel like they're sort of holding you accountable, you're benefiting from it. And things like that. It's quite hard to know for me.
But are you benefiting?
Are you benefiting from it?
Yes. But you're correct. But the way we see things is if you want to define what is white supremacy, right, and how to break it down, being closer to whiteness or Europeanness in all areas of activity, it's something that we can identify. So I mean that, yes, me and you live in England, which could be the heart of white supremacy, right? The philosophy was built in these kind of institutions, right? So the fact that I'm here, by definition, means I can benefit from the legacy of it, right? Yeah. But then a black person in Africa is going to benefit less. But then a black person in Africa who speaks English will benefit more than a black person in Africa who doesn't, right? So the systems and the cultural norms that were made historically in this land is what we're talking about. So yes, I benefit from it as well.
And I'll be honest with you, I didn't really, before coming to Speaker's Corner, because I've actually appeared in on the G-Circuit a couple of times as well.
Right.
I've never even bothered looking into it. I actually used to believe there wasn't institutional racism, and I don't think I'm a dumb bloke, but I actually thought you meet policemen and they're decent blokes. There's no, if you're going to do that job, you're probably doing it for a good reason. But I remember seeing one G-Circle, I'll keep it short, I saw one G-Circle where I think Raspek was talking to some really articulate young black men who were saying that they were stopped and searched, and they were saying it in a way where they were almost abused. It wasn't just a stop and search, it was almost like a demasculating experience for them. And these were like well-dressed, well-spoken, because I always thought the people that get stopped over are the roadmen looking ones with hoodies, and even if they're white they're going to get stopped over, they're walking around like that. But these were actually black, young, articulate men, and it made me look, well, hang on a minute, I've never been stopped and searched. I've only seen the police once when I was driving a bit too fast down the highway. I've never been, and I live in the same areas.
And did they let you go after they stopped?
Yeah, no issue at all.
Okay, I didn't so you're speeding.
What would you say to me saying that because you identify yourself as not just a Muslim, but a white Muslim, as soon as you identify yourself as white, you become part of the faith of whiteness. Does that make sense?
Christianity or?
No, I'm just talking about white and whiteness. Okay. Yeah. So whiteness is a belief system.
Yeah, it'd be good. Can you define white? Because I think you asked me and I don't really know, but you clearly have.
You don't know, but you.
No.
You identified.
I gave you my definition.
Well, what is a white person?
I said it was a British, growing up with British values and things like that. That was my definition of it. Now I know probably roughly what yours would be, but it'd be good to know if you define it for me.
Well, it's already defined by the race codes.
But what's wrong with the race codes?
Well, that's a different question.
I used to work where you need a walkie-talkie, and if you need to describe somebody, there's nothing wrong with saying he's black.
Yes. We're not talking about
right
or wrong at the moment. We'll go there.
But the race codes are important. Yeah, go on.
Right. Well, that whole issue is another issue. So, but I want to talk about this. You said white Muslim, and then you was mentioning black Muslim. See, so by putting the word black, you're not just talking about Islam. You're not just talking about Muslims. No. As soon as you put the word black in there, then he has to come with white.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay.
So we'll leave the Muslim here.
Yeah.
And then we're dealing with black and white.
Okay, cool.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yes, you've got Muslim and then you've got black and white Muslim.
Obviously, outside of this conversation, I am just Muslim. Outside of this conversation, we were talking about it because he would keep my name and he wanted to know why, and it's because I still recognise myself as a guy who's grown up in this country.
Right. So
but I'm not saying Muslims need to go around and say you're a brown Muslim, you're a white Muslim. I'm not. Okay. That's not what. That's not what Islam's meant to be.
So you're saying that your name was part of
Greek Muslim,
part of whiteness. Your name, keeping your name, helped you to keep white values. Is that what you're saying?
That wasn't my thought. That may be, but my thought was to keep my identity. If my identity is whiteness, and look, can you define it? Because I'd like to know what when you say whiteness, I have a feeling that you have some complicated thing that I might not know what. Not complicated, but you probably have something that I'm not understanding.
People generally just say I'm black, I'm white, just out of just a word rather than some ideology.
Yes.
So I think that's what he doesn't see. He doesn't see an ideology. He just sees
And look, it may be good for you to explain to me, because maybe white people don't necessarily look this deep into it. I don't know if that's fair to say, but
well, I don't know what he's talking about. When he says whiteness. I have no clue what he's talking about.
Well, you regard yourself as a white man?
No, but he says whiteness. I don't know what that means.
No, forget that. You regard yourself as a white man?
I don't know what that means. I only regard myself as a human.
Yes or no question?
All right, you're
No,
just
I
human.
don't do yes and no questions when it's a complicated thing.
I regard myself as a white
regard
man.
yourself as a white man.
Nah, I can't be bottlenecked.
Do you see me as a white man?
I'm human, bro.
Just
That's
say
all.
no if you don't.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm saying I'm human.
Do you see him
That's
as a
all.
white man? Do you see him as a white man? Do you see him as a white man?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
But what does that mean?
No,
Is it just
there's
a physical
there's
observation?
No for me to speak to you because you don't even understand whether or not you regard yourself.
I know. It's tough.
Are we?
That's why
That's why I was.
I think there needs to be a definition of what whiteness is.
Of course, because we were talking about.
tries to cite
I'm sure.
It just really
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to. Yes. Everything around you is positive respect. Whiteness.
I do feel that sometimes when we talk about white and black or white and colour metaphor and
Depends
IC3
on what
stuff,
era you're talking about.
there are a
The
few
human
Europeans
history is
who, up
You
until
know what I
the
mean?
conversation, will happily identify as white. And when we start talking about are you white, then you get the human answer.
That's right.
And,
right.
And this is interesting, like
Yes,
why
right.
this is.
Watch it.
That's all I mean.
Yeah.
Watch
And
it
why
very
this happens?
carefully.
Because it sounds like I see you pushing your ideas forward. So, brother,
So
here.
European will suddenly say they're not white.
Well, this.
So you're saying it's almost like a British.
I don't know, but what I'm saying, this gentleman, it seems like he's not really forthcoming whether he's white or not. He doesn't understand the conversation. But I suspect, and I could be wrong, that outside
So
of
if there was a German man standing here, you think he would be less likely to call himself a white?
I think that there is like an unwritten code of understanding that people of European descent generally know what being white means, right? And when amongst yourself,
That's right.
it flows naturally. But when it comes
Look, I get what you're saying,
when
because
it comes to discussions, it's
because
like,
a British
what is
person will call themselves British, and a German person will actually call themselves European. They won't call themselves German.
Sure. I think that's the main.
I don't know that goes along the
But
same
then,
line.
both will come together under whiteness, as in we're both
Whiteness,
white.
that's right.
Like,
That's
for
right.
example, you know
That's
when
why I
you,
said
like in your family, would you say there's a high population of white people, right? And there's many times where you're just white in the room. And there's certain conversations might just go on with white than with other people groups because it might not be appropriate,
And
right?
when I was younger, all my friendship crowds were white.
Exactly. So your conversation might change from when you step into an Asian room. And you realize like some of the stuff we said before might not go down too well here, right? And so you have to kind of. So what I'm saying is, that is an understanding of whiteness. I mean, we are all from the same whiteness, right? So we're going to talk a certain way.
Yes,
So,
right.
so whether a German man was here or an Irish man, we've all identified as white, so we can have
Yes.
a certain conversation, right?
Yeah.
But it seems that when we're here now, we're going to do identify as white. It's like, what is white? What does that mean to you?
That's the
I'm
question.
a human being.
Yeah.
But I don't think that human being conversation comes up when you're in the room and it's identified by
Right.
you know there's
I had no
white
issue with
person
saying
there.
I was white.
I
had no issue with it.
I know,
I
no,
didn't.
you, yeah.
And then you were asking me about my definition of it and things like that. So
Yeah,
that's
because
where-
I would say that whiteness is a faith. Whiteness is a religion.
Is blackness a religion? Is blackness a religion? I just want to see if you're isolating white or whether you're consistent on all.
Right. Black.
I wonder what it's called. Yeah.
Are you a black man?
I'm classified as black. I'm classified as IC3.
Do you class yourself as a black man?
All right.
I'll say I'm classified as IC3. I'm a
You
black
don't
man.
classify yourself as a black
I'm
man?
a black man.
You are a black
I'm
man.
classified as a black man.
But you don't see yourself as a black man.
Well, that's how the system sees me as a black man.
But how do you see yourself? Because I've been honest. I've said how I see myself.
Yeah.
Why
I
won't
am-
you say what you are?
I've seen it.
IC3 black.
That's what you see yourself as, yeah?
That's how I'm seen.
How do you see yourself?
Right. So I'm operating under that code.
Which has no scientific basis.
Which isn't true.
It's code.
Yeah. Which is,
No scientific basis.
well, if you'd say it's not true.
Why does it need scientific
Hold it.
basis?
If you talk to a police officer who's been trained on the codes,
Who's not a
Hi-
scientist or a biologist.
yeah, would you say to him that black people aren't IC3? It's not true.
No, I wouldn't. I've used those codes before. Because, like I said, I had a job where I was using a walkie-talkie, and I have no issue describing someone as a code
Yeah.
because it gives you a physical, it gives the police a physical way of actually spotting who it is.
I understand all that, but I'm trying to try and stay within the theme of the discussion. And you were talking about, as far as I understand, it's Muslims.
Yeah.
And you talk about black Muslims and white Muslims. He's using that kind of language, right? And then so one second. So you're using name, name of a person. The person has a name, has a racial classification, and then is a Muslim. So there's 3 levels there. Yes, this name, this race, and it's a Muslim.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Is there anything wrong with that?
Well, this is the question. This is the question. So I'm trying to understand. I see whiteness as a faith, and that whiteness, you chose to preserve it as part of your Muslim faith. So you see yourself as a white Muslim. And then you were mentioning, why do black Muslims feel the need to change their name?
They don't believe in
Them.
You see? See, so I'm trying to break it down.
Like I said, I want to reiterate so it's clear. Islam doesn't recognise race. Islam, when you convert to Islam, you're not all of a sudden. I'm not a white guy really, but what I'm saying.
I understand that.
What I'm saying is, I was raised as a white guy, and I would have certain. I have white family. I have white, certain things that.
White values. You said that.
Yeah.
White values. What are white values?
Here we go.
Oh, that was a tough one. I should have said that. Can I retract that?
I think you can retract that.
I'll go very slowly.
And to be honest, I don't know if I can even tell you what British values are, but that's what I grew up in this country, and British values are actually not only British, are they? I've grown up in a multicultural society. So
is it possible?
Some of them are, but not all of them. Not all of them.
Yeah. Is it possible to preserve British values and be a Muslim at the same time?
British values.
To be British and Muslim.
For example,
it is.
British value, I would say freedom of speech is a distinctive European and Western British value.
Yes.
And adopted by other countries, America, etc. Would that be compatible with Islamic faith of for example, drawing or cursing prophets and gods and etc.?
Do you think cursing prophets is a British value?
No, freedom of speech is.
But that's cursing a prophet isn't freedom of speech,
No,
is it?
freedom of speech is.
You used
it's
it as
part of freedom of speech.
Is it really? Well, then we've probably got different definitions of freedom of speech.
Probably.
Oh, no. So, okay, what is your definition? If you're not free to say what you wish to say and draw what you wish to draw, if you don't have freedom of expression, then what do you have?
It's freedom to curse the prophet. Do you really call that as your freedom of expression?
Yeah, that is.
I'd say it's British values to be respectable in what you say.
Okay, when you say prophet, you're now distinctly thinking Islam. How about Zeus? What do you think about Zeus? Do you have the freedom to draw Zeus?
I would never disrespect Zeus. If I did, if
you
I
would never disrespect
Odin. This is a very good conversation.
Yeah, we'll have this chat another time.
Definitely.
I did get what you're saying.
That's a good conversation. Because we've got like an agenda, we'll stick on that one, but that's a good question.
He's right. There are some things in that are maybe British values that if they're not compatible with Islam, that I can't necessarily follow. So
and then you won't be British.
So I agree with you.
Can I ask you a question?
Right.
Go on.
If it was necessary for you to change your name to become a Muslim, would you have done it?
Yes.
I didn't think it was.
Information.
It's not, but he said if it was.
Oh, sorry, I missed it.
If God has put a ruling in it, then yeah.
I don't want to get too
It's your
gratuitous,
opinion
but
of Islam.
what's your opinion on circumcision?
That's definitely not
Another subject. That's right.
Is this Raj's camera?
Go there, no, this will not be. Alright, so
But it is a factor. It is
okay, so let's just keep that private for a minute.
Stay
What I'm
with
saying
identity.
So yeah, I did. So are you satisfied with the question and the answers you got from?
I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you because I don't know about you as well. I don't really feel like I know what the point you were making was overall.
Well,
No, I don't know.
from the conversation, listening to your conversation.
And develop them into some sort of scientific category when they're not. They're simply codes used traditionally by
No,
the
that's not what
police.
we're talking about.
Sometimes controversial.
That's another conversation. That's another conversation.
Basically,
We're
I
talking
raised
about
that.
white Muslims and black Muslims, and then the extension of a white Muslim and a black Muslim, we start moving into names. Right? That's the conversation as far as I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that black or Muslims that see themselves as black or Muslims that classify themselves as black feel the need to have their names changed.
But
Is
more-
that,
yeah,
is that
yeah,
what I'm
yes,
saying?
but more
Is that
specific-
what you were
yes,
saying?
but more specifically going towards a Arab cultural naming system.
Right, okay. So
Fine.
Muslims who classify themselves as black tend to move towards an Arab naming system.
Yes.
And
Whilst
that's an interesting question.
in contrast,
What I'm saying, yeah.
whites, the Muslims who also claim to be white,
Yes.
tend to preserve their names.
Yes.
Right.
And
So
this is-
these are the
That's always the
contrasts.
case. That's always the case.
It's not, but we're
Not tend to, but he has.
yeah. So I thought,
Look at
What I
Cat
seem to
Stevens.
see, right,
He
if
changed
someone
his
has a
language.
strong cultural background and they're not Muslim and they become Muslim, right, they will hold on to the cultural background. Whereas if they don't have a cultural background,
Yeah, and I think that's
it's
originally that's where the conversation is going.
they don't know.
I think that what
But if you want, obviously, to change it by your vote and all of that, you have to do it by, you have to go through a legal process. Do it by default, which is basically putting that.
but here's the issue we might have with that conclusion, right? If you have an Afro-Caribbean, African-American who realize that their name was given them through slavery, right? And we understand it's slavery. For them to then change it to what they are seen as an Arab name, not Islamic name, but Arab name, and we understand that Arab had an Arab slavery, which was the other side of the pond, which lasted much more longer, right? So when you talk about identity, if you're going to choose an Arab name for the reason of slavery, we understand that the Arab culture has also indulged in high levels of slavery, right? And it was known as the Arab slave trade,
If you
right?
look at the Muslim world generally, most Muslim populations tend to have a high percentage of Arab names. So even if they're not ethnically Arab, so Pakistanis will have Arab names, Afghans.
Yeah, we're talking about when you change.
So then that's an even bigger issue where it comes to identity. Like
Well, you guys, as two black men, are you able to? Because obviously, where the conversation is going is why does a black person not feel
Yes.
associated with their culture enough to keep their names?
Yes.
Well, could you guys have a guess because you're black people?
No,
Why
we know.
is
I'm
it?
saying, could you answer that question?
I can't answer that.
Okay, my name's Mark Brown. Yeah?
Your name's Mark Brown.
Mark Brown.
Yeah.
What problem do you think I would have with my name? Before, regardless of whether I'm not gonna convert to nothing or whatever.
If you convert to Islam, what problem would you have with it?
no.
Okay. All right.
I'm saying, could you see where I might have a problem with my name?
So I could see somebody expecting to see a white face maybe when you turned up.
Why is that?
Because Mark Brown in my mind would be a white man
Why is that?
because they're very common white names.
Okay, how did I get it?
Yeah.
Forget about Mark.
No, I know why you got it, and
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, and I guess that is maybe partly where the conversation can go. I know why you got it.
Right.
So can I say something? If someone adopts like an Arabic name, like for example, like my name's Osama.
Where
yeah?
were you
My
from
name is
originally?
This is the brother's born.
yeah. My name is from like a companion that fought war. For example, if a black man takes the name of Bilal, I think I think Rasbak was talking about it. If someone calls him Bilal, he'd be very proud of it. Why? Because Bilal has been through, like he's been tortured, he's been slaved, and then he killed his slave master. So I don't feel like even though he has the Arabic name, he's still preserving his if an individual has an Arabic name, he's still preserving his culture. Like I'm a Pakistani, I got Arabic name, but I still preserve my culture. I eat I eat like my food. I speak my own language. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think a name is like a bigger problem when it comes to identity.
A lot of the Muslim
What?
names are prophet names.
The name is not
Connected to
yeah.
Islam.
Even like Moses, for example.
Well, the thing is when you say these are Islamic names.
Yeah.
So what when Muhammad Prophet became a Muslim, did he change his name?
No.
So that means the name Muhammad predates Islam.
Maybe.
So then, so the culture, what did it belong to?
That's
Okay,
right.
Okay, the Arabic culture, I understand
Okay,
that.
so we are.
But
So we identify
that's
that
not the
his
reason
name-
why we adopt the name
I
though.
understand.
Musa and Jesus, they are not Arabic names.
Well, Jesus is definitely not Arabic name.
Right, exactly.
Do you know any Jesuses? Do you know any Jesuses?
What is Jesus?
So you have Isa and you have Jesus, right? So
No, sorry, I meant Isa.
So Isa is what
No,
the
no,
Arabic
yeah,
rendition
Isa.
of Jesus. So why was it necessary to have it? So it's like my name is Jim Jim. I'm now going to become Arabic, so I'm going to give you the Arabic version of Jim Jim, which might be I don't know what that
What I'm
might
saying
be.
is names like
understand what you
Musa.
just said?
You understand what I'm saying?
Sorry, let me just. So I want to make my point.
Yeah.
Musa, for example, is not an Arab name, right? But people adopted that name because it was a prophet.
Okay.
Right, so they see the story of Musa and they decided to adopt that name.
Right.
Not necessarily because he's
Musa, what Musa is who? Musa is
Moses.
Well, you hear what you said? You said Musa is Moses.
Yeah.
So is it Moses or is it Musa?
Moses is the
Right.
Europe. I can't say that.
All right. So we heard that when names go to certain places, they change,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So is Musa Arabic?
Musa is, I think,
Arabized version.
Arabized version.
Okay, so you prove my point once again. So even the Arabs are taking names. Yeah, so the culture, because you know what? This is your name, but when your name comes here, it's called this. Yeah? So this is Arabization, right? I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, have them come.
Yeah, change the region.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
So,
not actually right.
am I wrong?
No, you're wrong, because actually the Hebrews and the people of that time didn't call Moses Moses. These are English versions of those.
There you go. You know more.
So
there you go.
they're not actually Arab. The Arabic is closer to those people's names.
When they didn't have the name in the first place.
No, but the thing is, they would have got it from the Jews. They would have adopted those names from Jews, which are the ones who have the
Let's get a central point. What we've identified, hold on. What we've identified is people have seen the name. People have seen the name, and the name is this. But when this name comes to this culture, it gets rebranded to fit that culture. So that's the point we're trying to make.
Yes.
So we understand that certain people's cultures are prominent, right? So the Arab culture is very prominent. So when you subscribe to Islam, you can also subscribe to Arab culture. Yeah. And
some parts of it, though, you can't just say 100%.
My understanding of that is
the name
that
just
in
one part,
Christianity
right?
it's
Well,
Jesus
name's a
and
big part,
Moses.
it's a
So that Raven understands, you've said those words. That's my understanding.
But they're not keeping random Arab names, like a random name like Sammy. They're keeping prominent names of
Companions, for example.
companions and prophets.
Yes.
And that's not unique to Black Remix, that's the Muslim world as a whole.
Yeah.
And that's a bigger question we can have. Well, that's a bigger question we can ask within your culture. Like, why is it that you value being Pakistani or the people
Right,
you
exactly.
come from, or you value being Romanian, or whatever it might be? But when you discover a new religion, you go to the people's customs before the religion and subscribe to that, right?
That's right.
And that's a bigger question, right?
So-
but obviously, because it's our corner, it comes from the black.
Yeah.
Largely remain the same. All of those
So African names, are they always consistent? Are they always the same, or do they change when it comes to time? So let's say 2,000 years ago, were the African names like a typical African name? Would it be 2,000 years ago? I can't really think about it.
Can we bring back to the
you know
original?
what African name is, right?
The original point.
My question was,
African
as a black
intellectual
man, do
Nigeria
you have an
also.
idea why a black person would?
Yeah, I do.
Because I think you three probably have an
We
idea
have
why,
a-
whereas I don't. I don't.
So answer the question again. Sorry, we'll get back to you.
Yeah,
Answer the question again. Sorry.
So the question is, obviously we've gone on to the fact that obviously I've kept my name as essentially, I don't know why a black person would necessarily do it more than a white person, but as three black men standing here, you probably have a better idea because you know about it, or you have an inkling as to why it is. So it'd be good to hear.
There is a strong disconnect within like black culture or African culture, whatever you how you identify within the black community, especially in African America and the Caribbean because of the transatlantic slave trade, right? And that separated people from their old people, their own norms and own ways. When it comes to naming, if you're going to jump into a new religious group, who's going to lead you? A lot of the people who's going to give you your identity is going to be people from other communities, right? So you're going to easily adapt to that, especially if you're not connected to your past norms.
The one that you were given.
Yeah, you're given, right? So this is why we see it. But then there's also a strong disconnect from anything that can be identified as black. So because there is a lot of shame within the black community, and it's like, you know what, I want to disassociate black completely. Yeah, that's why you see it, and it is used as a spearboard to get as far away as possible. And that's why today you might find that myself coming here trying to do black betterment building work, meaning black people helping black people do better, and you might get pushback from certain cultures because like, I'm free from that. I don't want anything to do with blackness. But you don't see it in your culture because you're like, I'm going to be white. But,
I think the slight issue I have is it seems like you are trying to say that black people who aren't necessarily strong in their culture are more likely to convert to Islam, whereas maybe someone who really respects their culture is not. When to me, Islam's an intellectual decision. It's not.
Well, I haven't said that. I
know, but it seems to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
that's a very intelligent notion to bring up. Like, if someone is strong in their culture or they're faithful, so would they easily convert? No.
But I'm an example of someone who's strong in my culture, and I've converted.
Now, what was
Are you strong in British culture?
Yes, I was proud. I was proud to be British.
But you've identified you could be British and Islamic, right? But what I'm saying,
Which doesn't make sense to me.
Were you a Christian prior being a Muslim?
I mean, I went to church occasionally.
So this is not.
Most Christians wouldn't have called me one. I called myself one.
So you've been more dedicated to Islam in your world of an Islamic person than you were. Okay, so then that's the difference, isn't it? Right? So you wasn't really strong in it. But if you were like a strong Christian, like you pray to Jesus every day, you love Jesus, everything was Jesus, then it'll be much more challenging for the Dawah team to make you leave that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? many black people.
No, if someone's strong in
But a black
Christian
person,
faith,
a black person converting isn't leaving black, isn't leaving them.
So can you open up a wee bit?
Sorry,
Just,
brother.
no, it's cool. Just so I can jump in.
If someone's strong in their Christian faith,
It's all games.
and they believe Jesus is 3 in 1, and someone poses the question, how can God be 3 in 1? Then that's an intellectual question.
Right.
And so now, although they were strong, they now have to reflect on what's been said.
Oh, yeah, but this is one thing we have to understand. What makes this challenging is, for the most part, faith. A religion is based upon faith, right? Belief, ultimately, right? So you can only go so far. At some point, we have to let go and go.
Why have you used Christianity for me, but not for? Obviously, we're talking about black
Because
people.
British and Christianity go together. British.
So what religion is a black person?
Say again?
What religion is a black person then?
It depends what they're given, isn't it?
So are you? Because why do you use?
Let's slow this down. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. Let's slow this down. There's a lot going on here.
I think we're slowly moving forward. It's pigeon steps.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to move very slowly. Now, blackness and whiteness.
Back to that.
Yes,
You taking us right
blackness
back here,
and
yeah.
white. That's right. That is a religion. It's part of a form of a religion, and the religion and the faith
whiteness is Christianity.
a culture.
Whiteness is Christianity.
As far as I understand, that the British, you can tell me more about Britain, but I've always understood that being British, Christianity was part of the British culture. It may have changed. I don't know if it's changed now.
Depends on how far
but-
back you go.
Right.
Because everything's changed. Like the island had different composition of people and beliefs.
But there's no
Okay,
doubt
right.
Christianity still has an impact on British culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we go back to the beginning of the conversation, we're talking about Muslims, and we're talking about black Muslims and white Muslims with white names, and we talk about black Muslims with Arab names.
Yeah.
And then we started to move into issues of culture and how names are related to culture. And so we're going at different levels here. So I'm saying that you can't, British culture does not go with Muslim culture. And that's part of the big clash. Yes? British
Is it not value
culture,
systems, maybe?
well, culture is a collection of value systems
Right, now we can
that
start
the
defining
people
it, I mean.
that the people
So are
want
you
to
saying
hold.
that I'm
And
no
whiteness-
longer
hold it,
white? I'm no longer white.
We're going there. We're
Okay,
going
go on,
there.
go on, go on.
So whiteness is part of British culture. It's a British value. Whiteness, you know, not literal white, but whiteness is British culture.
I still don't know what you're talking
Define
about.
whiteness.
Because unfortunately, you're nodding your head when he
Let's
says
define
whiteness,
whiteness.
but I still don't have a clue. Do you know what he means?
Okay.
He says it's a right, but that's the crux of the argument, eh?
When certain British people voted for Brexit, right? Who did they want to be kicked out? Those people who were voting because they wanted.
There's lots of different reasons,
I
though,
disagree
eh?
with that. I
Lots of
voted
different
Brexit and I don't think it was a racist decision.
No,
but if
those who,
this
those
is
who-
white.
did.
Those who chose
That's
that,
not an answer,
because
man,
they
come on.
wanted to secure the borders and maybe. What was it?
We're doing.
He's teaching me the
You
colours.
could have just gone like that.
So those who you might class as bigots, right?
Oh yeah.
Who wanted to vote to leave the European Union so
Yeah.
they could secure the borders and whatnot. What do you think that their values, right, are based on whiteness? That's what we understand.
Yeah.
Do you understand
No.
that their decision was based on? Because like, if
He does,
they
he
go to the
does.
speaker's corner, right?
Yeah, but Europeans are white.
Are you Muslim?
So we were voting for.
I'm not Muslim.
If you're saying putting up borders to Europe, we're white, so we'll keep him white. So I didn't see it as a white black. I know that
It's
answer.
not a racial thing.
That's a point. I'll take that.
I mean, how can it be racial if you don't want Polish people or Slovakians?
To me, Brexit was control immigration. To me, I didn't vote for immigration anyway, but it was controlling immigration. It wasn't. Brexit isn't. Oh, get all the brown people out and the black people out. That was never. But anyway, that's a.
For some people, it might have been, but I mean, it's going to be a more issue.
What do I look like? How would you classify me?
You're Arab.
Yeah, but
White.
race.
What name would I call
What
you?
race would I be?
You have to define.
Am I a white guy?
You look
Am
like
I a
an
black
English
guy?
IC6.
Am I a-
You look an IC6. You don't look like
You like
Would I be brown?
visual.
You like
Creamy beige?
Well,
You'll be,
Like
might
you'll be IC6.
Yeah, IC6.
You'll be IC6.
IC6.
Wow.
IC6.
Yeah, IC6.
I see.
At best, IC2.
I would have put
but
you
really-
at an IC1.
IC2 at best, IC6.
No.
So IC6, and if you
South European.
but more so these two, but strongly this one.
Yeah.
I've only said
Yeah.
that because I think I know where this comes from.
I don't know where the brother's from, but I would say it was good. Where you from? Where you from?
I'm from Iran.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, there you go. There we go. IC6.
I should be a police officer.
But I'm not Arab.
But it's,
That is a profound insult.
well, we're talking about British culture. We're talking about being a Muslim, and Muslim. What we can have. People who believe in Islam, they would not say that they're black or they're white. If you're a Muslim, if you're a true Muslim, it's not. This system is not. This is British.
Agreed. We made that
Yeah,
point.
this is a
agreed.
British system. It's not. It's part of Islam. So, the mere fact that we're talking about black Muslims and white Muslims, I suspect that the British culture is clashing with Islam.
I'd say it's just value systems.
Yeah, but culture is a collection of value systems.
Right. Okay. So
Yes?
then you could.
So
you could
now
start
we can talk
identifying
about
them.
right. So let's start talking about the British values. Is it would you say British values?
Oh, you could just call it a value. So I don't want to say British. No.
What would
Like,
you say?
because I mean, like Islam is a more or less codified set of rules. So it's easy
Right.
easy to identify.
Yeah.
The British, I don't think you can say that because, of course, you have many different people that think many different things here. So it doesn't. They don't all adhere.
No, but the majority of the lawmakers, the policy makers, are generally what you call native British white people.
I don't think that's a factor in it. I think there's a certain shared ethos of what people want to consider to be morally right and wrong, and that comes probably from the Christian tradition, right?
Okay.
So I would say it's from that. Obviously, I'm going to try and distance it from myself from this British
Why?
classification because I don't think it's relevant or beneficial.
Yeah, but that is British culture. You're talking against British culture. Whiteness is part of British values.
Well, I don't
Part of
know.
British
Again,
culture.
the whiteness thing, still not with you.
You need to explain to whiteness what whiteness is.
I don't agree.
As a philosophy and it's.
But I don't think it is a philosophy. I think it's far too
You just say
narrow-minded.
you don't know.
Well, you can say whiteness is a philosophy. It's not think it's too narrow-minded. There's a lot of people in the world, and they all think
What do
different
you
things.
understand by what he's saying? Whiteness.
I see
Nothing.
Explain whiteness first.
So why when
Yeah.
he tries?
So, right.
I see free.
These codes you can get from the.
But that's not a philosophy.
Wait. So are you saying
Come on,
Britain? Are you saying that the people who put these codes together, they did not have a philosophy?
Well, why were these codes made?
Well, you'd have to ask the people who put them together.
Right, and not me, because I don't know.
Right.
And neither do you. Or maybe you
But
do.
they're policy
You have to
makers.
ask them. But these are the policy makers. These are the people who define what Britishness is. They define what Britishness is.
So what do you have issue with this? What's the issue with it? Like the problem with it?
No, we're not here talking about this. That's another subject.
What's whiteness? What's whiteness?
That's
Yes, we're dealing with the issue of whiteness and British culture. And I'm saying whiteness is a fundamental value held in British culture.
Okay, what is whiteness? You still haven't
I
explained what whiteness is.
dispute it. If I don't know what you're
You're not
talking
answering the
about, then
question.
it's pretty hard
Brother, you're
to.
not
I get what
answering
he said. He said whiteness was a faith earlier. So I think
Yes,
you
that's
said
right.
it was
That's right.
almost-
So it's part
so
of
absurd.
Britishness.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. If British people were to become Muslim, if Islam was to become the state religion, I think there'll be a lot of changes here.
But don't you choose faith? Like I didn't choose to be white. You didn't choose to be black. I chose to be Muslim.
Choose faith. Let's go back to the earlier parts of the conversation. You chose to identify yourself as a white Muslim, right? Nobody was pushing you to identify yourself as white.
It was for the purpose of my name change. It was for the, it wasn't.
Yeah,
I don't
but-
go around saying I'm a white Muslim. You're a black Muslim.
Yeah.
That's not
Okay, yes. So going back to the beginning of the conversation, we're talking about black Muslims and naming conventions. Then we're talking about white Muslims and naming conventions. So once you bring the word white or black into the discussion of Islam and Muslim identity, then you're dealing on another level. You're not talking pure Islam, because race, the whole concept of race, is associated with the British culture. It's a fundamental part of what it means to be British.
So you're saying you can't be a white Muslim?
Yes.
Okay.
There's no such thing, and because I don't want to start bringing out documents and so on, but once a white person becomes Muslim, they lose.
Change these.
Hold it.
I'm an IC3.
Hold it.
IC1.
They lose their white status. That's official. That's official information. That you become other. This is it. You become other. As soon as you could, because all Muslims are other. O. They come under O.
Okay, so that's what you
Is that not for physical identification? What is it for?
But what you're saying
I'm just making those statements. You can do research on the statements I've just made. I'm making very clear statements. There's no such thing as a white Muslim.
Okay.
That's depending how you.
According to British values.
That's fine.
According to British values.
From the government, that's fine. But if you talk about in general, for example, he will classify himself as a white Muslim, yeah, from his own understanding, okay? But from the government, yes, we understand. If they know he's a Muslim, they're going to treat him differently. That's fine. But what's your initial point, though?
Okay,
let's talk about.
Let's slow down. Let's slow down. Let's go slowly. Wait.
The point is they don't treat them differently.
Huh? The police do treat him
I
differently.
like
If they find that he's a Muslim, they will treat him differently. Just like when black people are treated differently by the police, I think the same thing with the Muslims. The police would treat me differently because I'm an Asian.
We're going somewhere now.
That's something else.
Now what Jordan?
But I'll talk about culture though, because you believe that if someone becomes Muslim, you adopt the Arab culture.
No.
That's not true at all.
That's
what I feel like.
5 seconds. I do not believe this. We are talking about black people.
Yeah.
You are from where?
I'm from Pakistan.
So you're not black?
No, but I'm Muslim though.
Yes,
but you're saying Islam
yes,
though.
but
Islam is part of my religion.
Hold on, friend. Yeah. What we're saying is you've identified that this gentleman, his name is Jordan.
Yes.
And he converted to Islam.
Yes.
And when he converted, he did not take an Arabic name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're saying that there are many
black people that do this, but they changed in Arabic.
Yeah, so that's the area of interest.
That's not everyone, by the way.
Okay, but obviously, like, there's going to be people who do stuff that we don't know, whatever.
Okay.
Right? But I'm saying you are from Pakistan?
Yes.
So once again, you are outside of this conversation in the sense of it's not directly affecting you within this conversation.
Discourse.
Yeah, discourse, but you've made it part of it, right? So we're talking about black Muslims, especially from the African American and Caribbean, and white British people, right? And behavioural patterns of both, right? And what motivates that? And he has a stronger affiliation to whiteness than the African Americans and Caribbeans have to quote unquote blackness.
I understand that, but he's saying that you can't be a white Muslim from the government.
That's what he's saying.
I understand that, but he still preserves his culture. Like for example, fish and chips every single Friday, or like this and that, blah blah blah.
I look like a white.
Do
I look Muslim to you?
Can I just say one thing?
No, you don't.
No, so if you didn't meet me, you'd think a white guy, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So there's my whiteness.
Right,
Yeah.
so
I eat fish and
or
chips.
race isn't a thing.
If you were to come to my house, you'd think you were an Englishman's house. Right? You might see a prayer mat and a few other things.
Because it has Britishness. British has a value.
You know what?
There's such thing as British culture.
I understand. I like
and
what
British
you're saying.
culture,
I like what you're saying.
British culture doesn't go with Muslim culture.
Why? I disagree.
Now,
with
why?
that.
That's another issue.
Explain to us what British culture is.
We can start off with the concept of race
I'm
and
not
whiteness.
sure you know enough to. Do you know enough to? Do you know enough about Islam to make that statement?
No, that statement is not mine. That when you look up the census records, when you look at the government.
This is what we need.
Yes.
How you doing?
So what we're doing now, right?
Yeah, trust me. Even though man do black betterment, but still my Muslim brother. Still.
Are you Muslim?
Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
That's what it does.
I'm Muslim as well, you know.
Yeah.
I'm Muslim as well.
Oh, you're Muslim as well.
So this identify for the brother. We're basically this our corner, right? Like this our
Oh,
corner.
it looked a bit multicultural still. I was thinking, what's going on here?
The first question is inclusive. The inclusive is we've noticed that when people from Europe become Islamic, many keep their European names, but many brothers and sisters when they convert, they get Arabic names. So we're analysing to what is the motivation behind that. So this is an inclusive our corner, which some might disagree with, but it's always been the way, and this is a topic currently. So would you like to chime in?
It depends what exactly.
So shall I explain what? So I got asked, me and Raven got talking, and he asked me, have I changed my name?
Yeah.
I said no. He said why? Because 2 reasons. I said because out of respect for my mum, I've kept Jordan. It doesn't disagree with Islam.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I am a white, British geezer.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm still me.
Yeah.
So that obviously raised the topic of Raven made the point that he noticed that many black geezer Muslims, changed their name.
Yeah.
So Raven was asking why would
particular to the Arab naming system.
Why would I be wanting to keep mine, and maybe black people are less likely to keep theirs? So that we may be making assumptions there, but I think we're talking on a personal experience, maybe from what Raven's saying. So that may be something, and we've touched up on a few things. And
Can I say something? And also, I responded by saying that generally, if a black person who's not Muslim has no affinity to their culture, then they're more likely to take an Arabic name because of the prophets.
That makes sense.
Whereas someone who has a strong cultural background may keep their name.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that?
True. So I'm one of the people that changed their name when I embraced Islam.
Why is that?
One of the reasons why I chose the name is because I was quite young. So I embraced Islam at the age of 15. Looking back at it now, where I am now, if I was in that position then, I would have kept my name.
Right.
Again, that's partly true. Even though my first language is my mother tongue, because I've been raised here, there isn't that much. I still boast I'm Ashanti all day long and whatever. But the link
Ashanti
is yes.
You can be Ashanti Muslim.
Yeah. Tribe doesn't. What do you have a tribe?
No, the calendar's coming back up.
Wait, your religious theology doesn't interfere with your ethnicity. You either got your chromosomes don't determine what religion you are. Like, that doesn't, but yeah.
And would you say, and it's a point I don't know if we made it on this camera or the other one, but a revert like you did, when you take a shahada and you jump into it, you are probably more likely to adopt the dress for a while, maybe change your name, and then maybe it calms down after a while. I do know some people like that, and I've been lucky with the mentors that I've had. I've had a revert white Muslim.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you don't believe in white Muslims, but I've had a white Muslim guide me, Brother Hamza, who's actually been quite strict on it, that you don't need to become an Arab to become a Muslim. Which you're reading Arab scriptures, you're reading things.
Which is quite ironic because Hamza himself chose another name for himself.
He did.
But I have noticed that Hamza, over his journey, he's stuck to his roots. He's
still Darren. I think down here he's Hamza.
Yeah.
But I think if you know him, he's still kept his. So he's done the both.
Yeah, and again, that might be the separation between, like the brother said, there is some credence to the argument that because we're not so closely attached to our cultures,
and I think that's what Raven was
so we're very easily jump on other people's cultures.
Yeah.
But for me specifically, my name Isa, which I chose isn't actually an Arabic name anyway. It's a Hebrew Aramaic name which has been Arabicized, right? Yeah. And the reason why I specifically chose that name, Isa, is because Isa, as you might know, is the Islamic equivalent of Jesus. I'm coming from a Catholic family and a Christian family. I thought choosing that name would bridge the gap and make my family understand that I wasn't running away or like insulting them for being Christian or whatever. It was sort of like trying to bridge a gap that had.
And were you aware that it wasn't obligatory at the time?
To be honest, it wasn't a thing I'd done because I thought it was obligatory. It was something I'd done because I wanted to do it. I'd known many people who had reverted and changed their name, and so because of that, I was emulating those people that I knew. So it wasn't really a thing of you can't keep your name. I never thought about that. But now, as I am 29 now, again, I do have that sort of sentiment of, at the time when I changed my name, I didn't quite consider the fact that my parents have given me a name which they believe, it's like rooted in their culture. It kind of was a bit of a spit in the face to change it, especially because they felt like I was running to something strange, away from culture and so on and so forth. So
would you change your name back?
Would I change my name? The reason why I wouldn't change my name back now is because I'm just known by Isa. It just would be a whole lot of confusion to just say, my family still know me as my Ghanaian name. They never ever refer to me by Isa. Isa is what my companions call me now.
Do you mind telling us your name?
My name? No, I'll gladly tell my name. Yeah.
Is it done legally?
I've still got my legal name. Isa's not my legal
I understand.
name.
Oh,
Right.
so you've still got your...
Exactly.
I've still got my legal name.
What name is that? What name is that? Yeah. What name is that?
My name, Nana.
Nana. All right, brother Nana. All right, we're good.
It's longer than that. It's Nana Kweku Wamponsem from Bong. That's my whole Ghanaian Shanti name.
Well, wait, are you now
and I'm
choosing
quite
to
proud
call
of
him
it.
that?
Well, the thing is, this is on his birth certificate, and he hasn't legally changed it, right?
But if he wants to be called Isa, and he said
after
he's not changing
after
it,
if someone chooses, but the thing is, a lot of people from our community, we have many names anyway. We adopt stage names, cultural names, religious changing names. We've got like 100 names.
So Isa, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So when you changed your name, did you have a strong cultural background at that time?
My parents do, yeah, and I identify as Ghanaian, but that didn't. That doesn't occur to me in my. Yeah, I was born here.
So would you think you had a bit more sort of English sort of background, sort of British culture? Or not?
I would even the idea of British culture myself. I would argue what is British culture.
I agree that.
I genuinely believe. I don't mean any disrespect, but I call it's fish and chip culture. Like
Fish and chips?
Fish and chips.
You think British culture is fundamentally whiteness? Fundamentally.
If you
other
say
things,
that,
but it's fundamentally whiteness.
Okay, so what exactly is whiteness?
There you go. That's right. Good. See, it always comes back. It always comes back. We go around. It always
his
comes
point
back.
was that it's a faith, and I can't be a white Muslim because they're not compatible.
That's right.
That was his point. Together. But you've already said, like you said, it's
a true Muslim is a Muslim. That's it. What is this black Muslim, white Muslim, British Muslim?
That's a premise you have to now substantiate.
Can you be a black Christian?
He has to substantiate the fact that you can't be, you can only be a Muslim and you can't attribute a culture or some other sort of identity to it. Okay. The Arab Muslims have been identifying as Arab Muslims for centuries. The Turkish Muslims have been, or the Ottomans have been doing so. The subcontinent Asian Muslims have been doing so. There is nothing in Islam that says that tells you to detach yourself from your culture. The only thing that Islam asks you to detach yourself with is those things which are incompatible from the culture. For example,
incompatible with what?
With Islam.
Incompatible with Islam.
Oh, so does Islam have a culture?
Does Islam have a culture? What define that? Let him. What do you mean by a culture?
Culture is built up of values.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
And beliefs.
And belief systems.
Right. Okay.
Right. So, if you have a belief system, that belief system is going to impact on your behavior. Yes or no?
Yes.
And if the belief system is shaping your behavior, then it must be shaping your culture.
Right. It's
so faith, so faith, culture, belief systems, they're all together. How
So
can you
should I be
separate
eating
them?
curry now?
They're all-
I should be eating curry only.
Okay,
We'll get there. Let's go back to whiteness. That was the question that was asked. That was the question because you just arrived. Yes. This hat is white. Would you agree with that?
That's the color white. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, borrow your hand. Right. Is his hand white?
No.
Right. So he is classified as a white person, but he's not actually white. So therefore, whiteness is not this particular shade.
Yeah.
It is a cultural value, isn't it?
Right.
And if it's a cultural value, then that culture must come from a faith of some kind.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
What are you talking about, man?
You have
Let's slow down. Let's slow down. Let's go
values.
again. I'll rewind.
Are you religious? Are you religious?
We'll deal with that shortly.
Because
I'm going to rewind.
I've got a
Hold
feeling there's
it.
a big hypocrisy somewhere in
Let's
your,
rewind. Let's
You need
rewind.
to come out and say you're a Christian or something.
Culture, right? If you have a faith or a belief system, if you have a faith or a belief system, do you agree that that faith is going to impact your behavior and the way you live?
Of course it is.
All right. So from faith, we go to behavior and habits.
Is faith the only thing that's going to shape your behavior?
Well, let's just see if this line makes sense. Yes, faith results in belief, results in habits and behavior. and values, yes? Because the faith gives the values. Can you see the connection
Values,
between them?
I wouldn't fully agree with that.
What?
Because
You agree? What do you disagree with?
I disagree with the fact that you're saying faith is you've highlighted as the only thing that shapes your beliefs.
I didn't say
and culture.
only.
No, but when you say it is the thing that cultures come from, that's dismissing that cultures and cultural values can come from other environmental aspects. So right now it seems like you're shaping.
Hold it. Cultural. You just said cultural values can come from other environmental aspects. That's what you just said.
Yes.
Other environmental aspects. Right. So you could be in an environment, yes, but your faith dictates how you behave within that environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Faith is
So
belief
if
without something without evidence.
Okay, good.
Or you could be atheist.
So faith,
Right,
so faith, your faith and your religion impact your behavior, whatever the environment.
Yeah, fine. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So faith, your religion,
Wait,
behavior.
Are you distinguishing faith and religion? Have you said?
Well, because I'm putting them together because people are not leaving it out of it. Yes, impacts behavior. Behavior. Your faith should supersede the environment. Am I correct?
Yeah. Okay.
What if you're atheist? What if you don't have faith?
We'll deal with it.
I don't think we will get there.
We'll
we won't.
You're
going to go around it.
But it's important to get these things very clear because people get confused over these things and then there's all kind of confusion in the conversation.
Go on.
Right, so your behavior. Then your behavior is a result of your values and which results in your culture. So can you see the link between your faith, your religion, and your culture?
Yeah, we can see that.
There's a link.
Does that make
It's
sense?
quite clear, yeah.
There's a link. Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right. So, if that makes sense, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about the naming conventions and identity. Because if you declare yourself to be of a certain faith, then that faith is going to be part of your identity, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah, I agree
Yes?
with that. Yeah.
Yes.
And if your identity is not acceptable to that faith or that religion or the habits of the people that's been developed, then your name can clash with your faith and your culture. It's all confusion.
I'm not denying it.
Yes?
I'm not denying that.
That's not you. I'm just trying to make these things clear.
Trying to set the foundation.
That's right. I'm trying to set the foundations of the language, and then we can move into what are these values, and what is value, what is Britishness, and can you be a white Muslim?
Right.
Can you be a black Muslim? I'm saying you cannot, for the very reason I just explained. If you're Muslim, that's it. Just
Can you be a
Muslim.
black Christian?
A black Christian. Well, Christianity, I understand you have the East African Coptic Christians, they call themselves Christians. Would anybody argue with that, with the African Christians?
No, there's different forms of Christianity all over Africa.
Yeah?
So why do they call them black churches in America?
Do you know what though, bro? Sorry, I think we were on the subject and it's kind of, sorry bro, but your question's kind of, it's kind of detracted from the point.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to get to the crux of how it is that culture is incompatible with Islam, because it seems like that's what you're saying. That if you're white and you identify with a white culture, you can't be Muslim.
And can I concede something?
Yes.
I will concede that obviously there are certain things, because obviously Islam for me has to be number one. There are certain things that I can't
Muslim,
do for my... So I agree with that. There's a clash.
Yeah.
But I still regard myself as...
One has to win. One has
things
to win, you know that.
Yeah, I mean, would you say going to the pub is British culture?
Why though? He's
Would you say?
right now.
I'm limiting.
Because even if I wasn't Muslim, I could stop doing these things for other reasons. It doesn't make me less British.
Yeah. I'm not talking about pubs.
I stopped drinking, or
I'm
I
not talking about
eating
drinking
pork
pubs.
and things like that.
Yeah, I understand all that. But would you classify yourself as a black Muslim?
I would classify myself as a black African Muslim. Yeah.
Black African Muslim.
Loves his categories.
Because this is to do with identity. You've got to clarify identity
I
and culture.
I feel like your view is that identity is quite monolithic. So if I identify as an African, there are, let's example, there are 30 points on this checklist that make you African. And if I happen to skip one, that makes me not African anymore. Is that what you? That's the kind of vibe that
fundamentally, yeah,
right.
That's right.
Then we have to. Right.
So once you say you're black Muslim,
right.
Blackness is and whiteness is part of a separate faith.
Fine.
Cultural value.
Who determines the constraints of these labels?
Great question. Hold it. Great question. Whoever is in power.
Can you not define it for yourself? Can you not make your own identity?
Well,
I simply just don't agree with you.
Yeah, but if I'm the state, and I say there's no such thing as white Muslims or black Muslims, I'm the state.
Fine. So if the
you're under my power,
so
and you're in my land.
So if the state
this is Britain.
Right. So if the state identifies that you can be a black Muslim or a black Christian or a black Hindu or whatever, then we just take it. Then that would seem like it's your point because they're in power.
Right.
So they
and
would
those in
stipulate
power.
the
That's right.
Right. So
you have to choose to accept those definitions.
Right. So then, as it stands, you can be a white Muslim.
Let's slow it down. Let's slow it down.
And the state haven't done that, have they?
If the state sets criteria for identity, and you as an individual decide to go against the state, then you become an enemy of the state.
I guess there's lots of enemies of the state. Then.
But in what sense?
There you go.
But then that still doesn't take away from their identified. If me and Raven wanted to detract from what the generic state stipulated definition of black was, go away and make our own definition. Yeah.
What's going to happen to you? Nothing.
There's nothing no one else can really say to say, actually, no, you're not black. We've both agreed we're black.
Okay, and if you both agree that you're Chinese, then that's going to fly, yes?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that would be we would have agreed on our definition. I'm not alone.
Okay.
I'm not a lone person.
Are you going to convince that to the police and the prison service?
What the uncle was saying is there's a power structure, right? So
Which
the
I
power,
don't disagree. There is a power structure.
And the power structure identify you and me as black, and these two gentlemen as white.
Right.
And so that means when people who are enforcing those laws walk down the street, they're gonna approach us with that IC3, IC1. And this one's identified that as a European Muslim, a white Muslim, whether it can't happen, he has never faced any kind of racism when he goes into his new faith, for the most part, right? Well, your story might be different. So that means
he hasn't
faced any discrimination based upon these identifications, right? But your story might be different compared to his. So that means other people within that system who are part of the system might be also enforcing that dynamics, right? So this is what we're talking about. Yeah. But so what I'm saying is.
So going back to what he was saying, when he said I'm a white Muslim, I suspect he means white as in just the colour we categorise.
Pardon?
As in British.
As in not necessarily as in British, but just white as a categorisation. Yeah. Not a state categorisation necessarily.
Exactly.
But just a categorisation. I'm a black. I'm Somali. I'm this.
Yeah.
These are just categorisations.
You're right. The state may well categorise me differently.
It may be an individual categorisation.
I do get what you're saying.
Yes, but my area of interest is how that then bleeds down into the community, right?
That's
right.
So
the state might see you as white.
And how you treat it.
Yeah. But then that actually must mean something, right? Being white must mean something.
Yes.
That means the community that you go into, whether they're Muslim or Asian, whatever, they will also view you as white. They might view you as a white who's now become Muslim, but they're still treating you with that white recommendation.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So my question, Raven, would be, as Jordan being a white man and me being a black man, when we go into the societies in the UK, are we identified by our religious beliefs, our creedal beliefs, before we're treated in a fashionable manner?
Now here's where adopting someone else's culture might change things, right? I'm not saying this is right or wrong or left or right, but for example, you might see, you said that when the police stop people, right, it's because of how they might dress, right? And you've identified certain dress codes like, maybe baggy clothes, hoodies, trains back to front, hats, right? Well, historically there was a certain type of people wearing that, right? Who were identified as what?
Black.
So then when people start dressing like, they're treated like, okay, now, if there is a traditional Arab...
The example I gave you, they were looked white.
Oh yeah, but but what I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying? But now there is an Arab way of dressing, right? Yeah. If you were to start dressing like an Arab, grow your beard big, however they dress, Do you reckon you'll be treated the same amongst the community, the white community?
No, it'd be different.
Okay,
There you go.
So there's my point.
Right.
So we do understand that there is cultural ways of dressing,
Yeah.
rightly or wrongly, and there is an impact upon that.
Yeah.
So as a white person who is visually appearing Arab, you might lose some of your whiteness.
Agreed.
Okay, so we've landed now. I think that's what somewhere that's what the brother was trying to say.
That's right. But we're breaking it down slowly and goes because this conversation of identity is so highly charged that people speed off in all directions. But we have to slow it right the way down and go piece by piece, piece by
To be honest,
piece.
this is
and
the
you
way it
find
makes
some.
me more thankful for Islam, because, like I said, I now view Isa as my brother. There's no longer for me that difference. Obviously, I'm not just saying. Obviously, that's the Muslim community.
But would there have been a difference before? Because for
There
me,
might
there's,
have been.
for me,
Yeah,
there's,
I think so. There may not have been
but
a reason for
but you're
us
telling
to have a
You're
chat.
telling me how I think, though.
Like
But
you,
you can't know that.
you personally talking about the collective conscious.
No, but why? Because we have to make huge assumptions on collective consciousness that we can't
I'll
possibly
tell you why.
prove.
I'll tell you
But
why.
we can think about what we
I'll tell you
individually
why.
think right now.
I'll tell you why.
Because
You
it's
have
easy
to
to make
understand. You
straw
have
man
to
arguments.
understand that you're coming from over 400 years of British
History only started 400 years ago, right?
Just a second.
Nah,
I'm talking
because history is an
about-
entire continuum. It
What's
doesn't
that?
start 400 years ago, man.
Yes, it is.
Nah, but I know the argument, and
goes-
it's not
No,
relevant.
But even if you know the argument,
Okay,
disgrace the person with
Fair. Go.
Tell us his argument. No, tell us the.
Whatever, man. Go for it.
But you said you know the argument.
Right, that's right.
I do.
Easy.
Yeah.
Because it's a false argument.
Well,
It's that
tell
because
us. Go ahead.
well, what I assume your argument to be, maybe I'm wrong, is that because of a certain period of time, there's a lot of oppression from one group to another. But from my perspective is that, again, it's always going to be about how can we try and make progress, make things better.
Who the we you referring to?
Right,
Sorry.
just keep going. I think that's the only sane thing to do. Now, for maybe logical reasons, some people get really hung up on certain things. Maybe that's logical for them. Maybe that's fair. They've got grievances or whatever.
What are these logical things that you're thinking?
You know what I mean.
No, he doesn't. We don't.
You're a very interesting speaker.
No, I'm trying
You jump in,
to
you
speak
conclude for
peacefully.
people, and you tell people you know what they mean. That's a very interesting way to die.
That's right. You know
We
what I
need to
mean.
speak candidly and openly,
Yeah.
right?
No, this is-
If we can't be open, we can't move forward.
There you go.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right,
Yes,
so
good.
we need to have open, honest conversations.
Sure.
If you think that we are hung up on something we shouldn't be, clearly state
No.
it, and then we
No.
What's
That's
it?
why I said you have maybe logical reasons for it.
Right.
That means there's a legitimate grievance.
Right.
That's what that means.
Okay.
I'm just crouching what I'm saying in
Fine.
diplomatic language.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
saying-
avoiding it.
Don't couch it.
Yeah.
Talk straight.
But go on. We're not
Diplomatic-
going to dictate how you speak.
Diplomatic
Sorry,
language.
Yeah,
huh?
true, yeah.
It's how.
Go. Yeah, that's fine.
It's
Okay.
how a lot of people do it. But like I say, if you want to make progress on certain things, then is it beneficial to hold like this thing you're saying about whiteness, and presumably blackness also? Is that beneficial for you? You know what I
Right.
mean? Does that help you?
Beneficial is a
As
matter of
Jews.
perspective.
All of it is.
If you want to preserve British culture and preserve whiteness, it may be perceived as beneficial from that perspective. If you're looking from the perspective of Islam, the destruction of race and as a category, I imagine would be a positive thing. But I don't think the British
Not
would
necessarily.
be happy with that.
Not necessarily from Islamic standpoint, but
You're making a big assumption. You're saying the British, because you were coming at me. We, what, who?
Yeah.
But I can just do the same. But it's
Yes,
not that
yeah.
productive. Because if you want to ask my perspective on it,
Yeah.
I can tell you. I mean, you just have to take my word for it. Eh? But honestly, it doesn't have an effect on me. Like
Yeah.
I think it's more reasonable to look at. Obviously, I'm going to say cliched things, but how people are personally. Do they treat you the same? Like, do they look at you?
I
the
understand
same?
what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
That's how we conduct
but
ourselves
watch
day
this
by
very
day.
carefully. Watch this very carefully. People keep saying, "Well, I'm not racist," or "I, me, you." You know, we're
That's
talking
not
about the
what I'm
state.
saying.
No, but
The state.
it's the same. Like
Okay.
the state is a different entity. That's where the power is. So it doesn't. I wouldn't say it doesn't matter. Your individual, you expressing yourself as an individual, I can appreciate that what you are saying. But when we start talking about state and we start talking about power, right? Do you understand? It's a different. You got to separate those two.
Yeah, I understand.
So people keep expressing themselves as individuals, not realizing that we're just here having a talk.
Right.
You know, when we go out there, it's full on power.
So what I want to say, like about the state.
Yes.
So the attitudes of the state that you might be saying are a certain way.
Yes.
Right? I would say that that's not affecting the way that I conduct myself. Maybe it has effects on other people, right? But it's not affecting the way I'm conducting myself.
That's what you think.
But you might have a freedom within that, right? Okay. You might have a higher freedom where you can afford to ignore certain realities, right?
What realities?
Well, this is what we're trying to unpack today,
okay.
right?
So let's
what
break
realities?
That down.
Well, this is what we're trying to unpack.
I'm going to go right. I'm going to go there.
Tell me though.
I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there.
Yeah,
okay, let's go there. Right.
Just jump his bill. That's his bill.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
When you are speaking to what you perceive to be an individual, when you're speaking to that person, you think that you're just speaking to a person, right? But that person has family, has a community, has a whole culture which he came or she came from.
Absolutely.
Right? So people say, well, I'm an individual. You've got to slow it down. Nobody is just an individual, right? Your history, your lineage impacts how you are right now, talking as calling yourself an individual. So just like you have a right hand and you have a left hand, it's almost like a person is split into the individual, but also their cultural background values, and that's the kind of thing that you were saying earlier, and it's still impacting you too.
If they put value on it.
You were saying when you decided to become a Muslim, you wanted to do something not to upset your parents, because your parents were holding certain Asante values, cultural values, and they gave you a name. So if your parents didn't mean anything to you, you just come out and say, well, I'm an individual and I'm Muslim now. And that's it, it's over. But something inside you was pulling you, saying that you have to respect.
You can't see me?
Yeah.
End of the world then, man.
Can't see me. I want to see everyone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you're talking,
saying that where you come from has an effect on the way you think.
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
For sure.
No, it does.
No,
as you're talking to me now,
yeah.
Listen to your accent. It sounds like a Scottish. Is that
That's right, yeah.
Right.
Good job.
Yeah. So even though you're an individual,
but you're defining.
Let's slow down.
No, but I don't want to slow it down because it's very.
Don't speed up.
We're going to do it. I'm going to go really fast. But if we put people into groups, it's going to be a really dangerous thing.
The topic makes you
Scottish.
uncomfortable.
See. And Scottishness.
You lost me. Yeah. There's no Scottishness. If there is, it's a bad thing.
Does that sound like a West Indian accent?
You do sound like you're from Scotland.
So
can you just
for you, it's a huge deal. For me, it's not.
You can't be a Scottish Muslim.
Oh, but fuck. My dreams are ruined.
Okay.
It's cool.
Can I make
I
what I
man.
was trying to say is, even though you're an individual, your individuality has been shaped by everything that's come before, by your parents, by your ancestors, by your wars that would have been in the UK between the Scots and the Welsh and Romans and Saxons, and all of that stuff has shaped you. Right? It's put you in a position where you are able to walk the earth and say, I don't give a damn about all that stuff. Your forefathers and parents have fought and shaped you in a way that you can actually say that now. Whereas my ancestors may have gone through other stuff that shaped me in a way where I'm not able to say that.
Yes.
I think that's the point that
you can look at it that way, but I understand that, of course.
Yeah.
But do you not? It's partially a biased way of looking at it, because, like I said, history is very long, and I don't. Well, I think our fundamental disconnect is I don't subscribe to the oppression narrative, because
oppression narrative.
That's the word.
What's that?
Because if we're here and we're able to make our choices today, we still got a high level of freedom in this day and time right now. Everyone's affected by certain things from the past, but look, like I was saying, everyone's had people that were oppressed and hurt in the past.
But I think that's a biased thing as well.
Very.
I think it's biased for someone. The reason why I say I think it's biased is I think it's biased for someone who is for example, sitting in Trump Towers, yeah, with a whole load of family wealth behind their name, saying, pull up your, pull yourselves up by the straps of your boots and get on with it and work hard. When he hasn't had to, he's there because of something that his ancestors have done. It's biased because he's in a position now where he's comfortable.
Yes.
And so he's saying, I'm comfortable, why aren't you? Well,
that's not what I'm saying. I understand you though.
I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm saying that it can come across like that as well. If you're saying you're an individual now, let's deal with how we can get on rather than...
It's not a logical thing, eh?
No. It's one of the logical things. I'm not saying it's not. But I'm saying is ignoring the circumstances which led you to be in the position that you are today is disingenuous. So that's my own personal opinion.
No, but can you deny that me and you have an advantage over black people in the society we live in?
We'd have to really define it, because I can't say.
You
can't see it. Well, I can't say.
On an employment basis, yeah?
I don't know. I'm not an expert, eh?
But just generally, when we look in the corporate world, yeah, you don't really see many ethnic CEOs of big businesces like that are really renowned, like on personalities. So
why
in comparison to the white people?
So
racism,
because racism is a religion.
There's many reasons why it could.
Thank you.
Look, there's going to be. Of course. Main thing is, these aisles are white-dominated aisles. So first off, there is going to be.
In this country, maybe.
Yeah. Just I'm talking about the UK generally. Right. There's more white people in the UK, in the whole of the UK. London might fool you, but the UK is predominantly a white island.
For sure.
So, because white people outnumber other ethnic groups, it's only
proportion.
It's just only normal and the normal thing to assume that most people are going to be of the white. Right. But for me, someone who's been in like the corporate world of finance, I've looked at many of my bosses and I don't think I've ever had a CEO. I've had one financial manager who is of Asian ethnicity, but I've never seen any black people in powers of position.
Right. Are you okay? So I understand. What to say? I mean, there's going to be multi-factors, eh? There's going to be a multitude of factors.
Right. Could racism be one of them?
Sure.
Right. Yeah. If it is one of them, how do we tackle that?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Right. So this is why we talk about it, to try and find solutions.
No,
I'm not saying I have the answer to it either.
I understand.
But I feel like dismissing that and saying that,
no one's dismissing it. I wasn't dismissing
loads of people dismiss it. Maybe not you. I'm not
you
aiming
just
at
earlier
you.
on. You said you don't care. You're an individual.
You must have misinterpreted what I was saying.
Okay,
I thought it was rather clear.
I personally, I've got no doubt that you're a good guy and you actually mean what you say. Like, I don't have anything else to go about on your words, and you seem like a sensible guy. What I'm saying is that these attitudes are prevalent and they are there. The amount of times I've seen people do things in the workplace, that they have been from like the ethnic, Asian, black, whatever else, and their white superiors have taken credit for it and they've been overlooked when it comes to legit promotions.
Right. You think that would be fundamentally down to race?
Yeah.
Right, but okay, it might have a factor, but it sure happened to other people. You know, of course, be like, I like this guy, I don't like this guy, that guy gets the promotion. It might just be down to that.
But what I'm saying, these things, you're right, they're multi-channels, right? And what we're trying to identify is being closer to whiteness, the stuff that we don't know what it is. And I tried to get the analogy about this is a European-born person who could be identified as white. He might be dressing how we say white, but if he was to put on a cap, baggy trousers and a hoodie and start hanging with black people, he might be identified as black. Well, not as he'll be white, but he'll be identified close to the black narrative, right? If he was to wear Arab garments, he'll be close to identify with the Arab garments. So he'll be a European person in that kind of culture, right? So that means something's going to happen less or more to him because of that. So if he was to go into a work establishment and he become Muslim, he got a big bed, wear the whole Muslim garment in the work environment, they might treat him different than how he is today.
Right. Even you yourself would treat me differently. If I was standing here with a hat and I was kind of going, "You done know," and all that, you'd probably be speaking to me differently to how we are now.
Well, I'd say you need to work with it.
Yeah, for sure.
But can I talk about your narrative? Because I'm obviously as a white guy to a white guy, because I do hear, and I'm not saying this is you, but you do hear a lot.
I don't define myself as white. Just the first thing.
Okay, fine.
Just a person.
Oh, that's very important. He defined him as white. A white guy.
Thing, man.
He knows members of his
club.
To
me, he's white. He's white.
To me, you're white as well.
You're very white.
You hear that
you're making your own definition. That's fine.
That's
and
government.
I think it's only divisive to the negative sense.
You hear this
You can be
narrative,
honest,
and
but it's
I've
divisive
said it
and
in the
negative.
past as well. You hear this narrative that all black people need to do is just get on with it. You know, you're in this society now, and you were it wasn't totally like that, but you were kind of saying, well, you know, I'm me, and society is what it is, and the history goes back further. So that you were almost ignoring. I don't think we can deny that in society now that there is where it's black people. I'd say the same for the Jews as well. You can't deny that there are repercussions from the history, and we see them at school. We see them at me and you. You would have seen it at school. You'd have seen it at university. You'd have seen it in your workplace.
No,
it's
well,
there. Some of us choose to ignore it. And some of us.
The first thing, I didn't deny anything. So
okay. Well, it could be a straw man, but
it is.
It was what
Definitely
I was.
is.
I'm sure I heard some kind of narrative that was suggesting. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, that you were sort of saying, well, we need to move on. It had that kind of... we need to move on.
What you just said
and I believe,
is what
I'm not just saying this because obviously I believe from a black person's ears, that's probably quite not a good thing to hear. Because we're not in their shoes.
Thank you very much.
We haven't gone through what they've gone through.
Very offensive.
Well, we've all got our personal struggles. We've all had our personal.
But I believe
systems.
I've had an advantage in this society, looking how I am and being how I am, and I've seen it, and I believe I have had. Okay. So I think the first thing to do is at least acknowledge it. I'm not saying there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, luckily it's on camera because I did acknowledge it. But like,
what do you acknowledge?
Nah, you're voting straw mans.
No,
I'm not in it.
I wasn't.
Okay,
fine.
No, because I wasn't saying that there was no. I wasn't saying that.
Can I take you out of it?
What was you saying?
Can I take you out of it and just make it as a point then? I think we need to acknowledge it. There's nothing me and you can do about it, because I think you were saying, well, there's nothing much you as an individual can do about it, because maybe you're not racist or you're not.
There clearly are things that have been done to try and reduce racial tensions in the UK over a period of time. I think they've been more successful. I can't give you policies, man. But all I can say is that it appears better if you. Well, like I work with people from all over the world, in all different colours and beliefs, and they get on fine. That's a great thing. In other parts of the world, that's not the case.
What occupation are you in?
Oh, education.
Education, teaching.
More or less.
And you find that...
Does anyone realise that 2018 was the 50th anniversary of Enoch Powell's River of Blood speeches, one of the most disgusting racist speeches ever made in British political history? It wasn't marked, it wasn't discussed, the date simply passed, and that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
No one brought it up.
No, I know what he said.
So you're saying that a British politician came up with this racist speech?
I can't quite hear you.
You're saying a British politician came up with a racist speech 50 years ago, and it was his 50th anniversary, and everyone just basically dismissed that happened and
they didn't make anything of it. No, not even the so-called racist groups or parties. Look upon this guy as a hero, or the speech as having anything that will help them in their.
Both of you know who this guy is, right?
I know who he is.
I've never known.
You guys do.
Who is he?
Look him up.
Who is he?
Enoch Powell. Yeah.
Well, what was important about it? He was a very prominent conservative politician. He was a member of the cabinet at the time,
right?
And he was a highly educated person.
You know, everything you just said, I've just heard problem after problem after problem.
That's right. That's
highly educated. He's prominent.
Yes, that's right.
That means that
break it down.
That means that just the grandfathers and grandmothers of this society, right, pushed a man like this to the forward.
Yes.
The point he's trying to make.
I'm not defending him, sir.
No, he's not
defending him.
No. But your point was to say that it's a good thing that no one made anything of this man's, this prominent politician.
As a society, we've moved on.
No, you just swept it under the rug. That's what.
Yes, that's what I think.
You haven't moved on. No, you haven't. You haven't.
Right. No,
How can
what
you?
It means?
Let
me explain to you what I think it means.
Okay.
It means that no British politician can get up on their hind legs inside certainly not inside Parliament, or in a constituency meeting. This was a constituency meeting in Wolverhampton, okay, which had its immigrant population, okay. No politician can get away with that today. So no politician would try.
What makes you think that no politician can get away with it today?
Because it hasn't happened since.
that doesn't mean that it can't happen.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
I don't know why.
I'm suggesting it would be a career ender as it was for him even 50 years ago.
But do you know what I have? Do you know the problem I have with these career ends is that person, once his career ends, still goes back to his cushy lifestyle.
There you go. And
I think what it means is that it's not supported by the society. I think that's what it means.
That's correct.
Like if he loses his job, he's not held up. Like, because some people have those views and they're not supported anymore. I think that's what he's trying to say. Which is progress. Well, if you want to go down that road, man, there's views on the other side too.
Do you know what?
Of course.
What's the other side?
That's right. What's the other side?
What's the other side?
What's the other side? You said there's views on the other side. What do you mean?
Should I spell it out?
Yes, spell it out,
Oh,
please.
just be candid. Look, we're not here gonna jump on you. Just
we're learning.
be honest. Trust me, man.
What is the other side?
No, it's very
because,
clear.
Yeah, what is the side?
No, it's not clear
define
to
the
me.
sides and let's review the other side.
Yeah. What do you mean the other side?
Cool. If you've got, let's say, a prominent white person making really racist statements, maybe you have a prominent black person making really racist statements. I thought that was obvious, but I've spelled it out.
Did you see that politically? Is there a like for like you can point to? So we can
Do
see
I need to? I said maybe there is.
Oh, so once again, it's the actual facts that has happened, dealing with a possibility. Right. You're a person who don't identify as white, but you really identify the black and white narrative, right? And we've identified that there's a power structure where you can have a voice and they can be rich and well educated, but there's a potential that there might be a black variant of that. But we haven't identified
the potential
this yet.
because we're all human.
What does that mean again, in the context of this conversation?
What does it mean?
It's so obvious.
No, really, I don't know.
So only white people can hold ridiculous views.
No.
Is that what?
We're not
That's
no.
right.
No,
you understand what I'm saying?
No, I fully understand that.
Right.
Not only white people can hold racist.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
No, but we're talking about. Look, he's talking about someone who actually executed his freedoms to his racist views.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're saying, oh, but there might be a black person who's done it. But we don't have any example of any black person who's done that.
First, they have to be risen to a certain place of power.
Why is it that we always go to the polar opposite when we?
It wasn't a crux of my argument. I was just saying.
Well, what I'm saying is you've identified the black-white dynamic, and right now we've spoken about identify historical white documented racists, right? And
Who thankfully very few people have heard of.
but what I'm saying, you've now gone to the other. Yes, but what about the black? What about the black version of that, which to your knowledge doesn't exist?
Might exist.
Might exist.
Yes, might exist.
Might exist. So we have an actual existence against a might.
I think he thinks you're one.
So
Maybe. Yeah, does that make sense?
No, I was just pointing because he was pointing at me.
Well, okay. Well, let's
okay. I'm trying to,
I've just thought of an example. Let's think of the Nation of Islam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Farrakhan.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard Mr. Farrakhan on Jews and on whites?
I haven't heard of Jews.
I have.
Well, Mr. Farrakhan.
Step back.
Okay.
He's not a big fan.
Mr.
big
Farrakhan was recorded inside one of his meetings, let's not call it a religious meeting, by one of his members who then left the organisation. This is 15 years ago.
Cool.
Okay? And so the man stands condemned by his own words. And that's why, by the way, he's not allowed into the UK.
What is those words again?
I'm not going to repeat them, sir. You can find them online.
Okay, so this is not a conversation. We have to move on.
Wait, but I just want to say
the Nation of Islam ideology basically takes what we might call standard white supremacist racism and flips it.
Define it for us so we can learn.
Doesn't flip it. Though.
How did
I don't believe you're that stupid. Can you? White supremacist racism says the white group's on top and everyone's beneath. The Nation of Islam flips that, and the Nation of Islam assert that the white people were created by created by a black magician in the 14th century. Now this is what they believe.
So these are religious ideological views.
But Ray,
they're deeply silly ideas, and they're also racist. So I was just threw that in. That discrimination of that type is possible from all sides.
You know the difference between Farrakhan and this Enoch Powell dude? Farrakhan is known by the world, and he's berated by people of all nations, even people of his own colour, speak out against some of the racist rhetoric that he speaks about. We would like to see the same, from the white side. We want to see
that's
people,
what happened.
No, but Enoch Powell, no one spoke ill of him.
Sorry.
No, they swept it under the
you're
rug.
wrong.
No,
you're wrong.
Guys,
you're
just
wrong.
to be fair,
you need to go and check the media. Enoch Powell was denounced, first of all, by the Prime Minister, the head of his party. He was sacked from his job, right? But then certain elements in our society, the taxi drivers, let me finish, and the dockers came out and said he was right. and then you had demonstrations around
they said he
with
was
signs,
right.
with signs. Well, if I'm going to
Yeah.
present the historical picture,
We
I
want-
have-
we
right.
wanna keep
So
it accurate.
politically,
What's your name? I don't know this guy's name. What's your name?
politically, it doesn't, my name doesn't matter. Politically,
matter. Okay.
he was criticised from the left, right,
White guy.
right. But there was a certain element, still exists in our society, that thought he was right. Okay?
Okay, so here's what it is. We don't want to stray off the point, but you mentioned Farrakhan, and when I asked, could you define what is the offensive language? Because you clearly defined what the offensive language from the other guy was. You said, I'm not going to treat you as silly and so forth. Right?
Well, I indicated what he...
I'm saying, I'm seeing a consistency.
but you
Hold on.
s-
I'm
you
seeing a
said you-
consistency
you heard
in the
of
behavior
Louis
pattern,
Farrakhan
right?
very
Where it's like,
many
I'm
times.
generally
So you
asking
know.
questions about language racism, and it's like, oh, well, you should know, And I don't think
and
these are-
stupid.
Yeah, stupid. I don't know what motivating this, right? But I'm saying we're generally trying to have a conversation so we can learn. So that's why when you push a not everyone might know who Farrakhan is. Not
Right,
everyone
so-
might know what he says.
exactly.
So when you push a claim, we want you to undress it so we can,
Yes.
we
That's
can
what I
unpack
said.
it. But if this is how you choose to talk, so be it. Right?
That's right.
But the original topic is identity, right? And names
Yes.
and certain groups of how they identify and how they change.
Yes.
So I don't want to go around the block, but that was where it originally is. Yeah?
Good.
So hopefully we've learned something today. Yeah. We want to move to another topic, but there's anyone else who wants to tackle. Go on, bro.
Can I just say one
Go
thing?
ahead.
Is personally, me as a person, and something I picked up from Raven is, we are not advocates of this victim mentality thing that other people see. What we're trying to, when we talk about black betterments, that doesn't mean anti-whiteness necessarily. Doesn't mean anti-Asianness. It means we want to build something for ourselves, socio-economically, and build ourselves up.
Right.
This victim mentality that people see coming from outside, yeah, it's not within us. It's due to some sort of insecurity within them own selves.
Right.
Yeah? We have identified that we have skills. Yeah, we've got skills to pay the bills, so we can do our own thing within our own nation and build ourselves up. Yeah, but it seems that whenever we come up and say this, we always face some antagonism outside saying, oh, well, why don't you be inclusive?
Right.
Why don't you be inclusive? You can't help everybody here unless you've got your own house in order.
Right.
And that is what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do.
I got no problem with that.
Hey, yo, you see what he just said? You see Marcus Garvey, he tried to do that for us, yeah? I don't know if you've heard of him. You've heard of Farrakhan, you must have heard
Black
of
Star
Marcus,
Liner.
Marcus Garvey.
I've read
So
Marcus Garvey.
what
Marcus
happened?
Garvey lived
See-
in a house
see
near
what he
where I
done?
live now,
Yeah.
and up the street lived
Oh,
Mahatma
yeah,
Gandhi.
that's
It must have
nice.
been a very interesting place.
That's nice, yeah, but you see Marcus Garvey, he never had any white
Gandhi's
privileges.
a racist, by the
He
way.
didn't have any, he knew that he couldn't have like businesses or anything where he could fund and help all of these black people, right? He had to tell them, let's gather together.
how successful
let's
was
gather
Marcus
together
Garvey?
and use and collectively
question.
work
Okay.
together, and then we can build something and get
Obama-
and through,
Obama talks
and that
about
Black
this.
Star Liner wasn't just Marcus Garvey's or Marcus Garvey's family Star Liner. It was a Star Liner that they built as a nation of people collectively, and that was through Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they actually bombed it down with nuclear with bombs
this
and
is-
stuff.
Like with
With
aerial attacks.
aerial planes.
Can I-
They first done what's it called? What's it? Bubonic warfare or biological warfare was first actually done in Haiti as well, when they actually famined all our people. Every time we ever do try and build and try to overthrow in Haiti, they'll what? They'll plague us out.
I'm just going to
They'll bomb
point
us
out that this is a live argument within people of color within the United States. Okay, and it's a live political argument since the end of the Civil War, since people of color put on the American uniform and died alongside other people, and then got their slavery ended. So some people of color in America say, well, if my ancestors died for the idea of America, I'm American. Okay? But for some others, no, we want to be associated more closely with Africa. So this is a live issue. Okay. It's a live issue.
Can I mention this?
That's not the answer.
I want to go there.
Identifying as American doesn't make you any less African.
Right.
That's entirely your choice. I'm saying it's a live issue. For some people, they want to be 100% American because they've paid the if you like, it's a terrible phrase. They paid the entrance fee in blood.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Are they being given their due right?
Okay.
can I make this suggestion?
Right.
Yeah, but you can only get your due rights under law, under the Constitution, by working it, and the proof of that is Obama. The proof is Obama in the White House.
If the chips are always stacked against
I don't know what that means.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then we have to go one at a time. We have to go one at a time. One time, just so we can have a clarity.
Can I ask one question? Have you ever, just one question? Have you ever known of any political revolution, that's been, and I don't know, that's been established, just by people following the law and being peaceful? Because the only ones I know of are revolution by blood.
It depends what you term revolution. Revolution,
change in system.
But that could be evolutionary. It could be slow. Okay. Gays got marriage in this country without fighting or killing anyone. And they used the law.
That's true.
Okay,
That's
and
true.
up until 20 years ago, the idea that gay people could get married was laughable. Laughable.
Even in 1836, Christmas was known as to be forbidden. It was known as pagan.
Well, by the Puritans. The Puritans of Massachusetts actually brought in laws which made it a crime not to work on Christmas. They saw it as a pagan festival. It wasn't mentioned in the Bible. It was unchristian.
Because we do have an agenda to go by. So do you want to say one closing act in the identity, and then we're going to move on?
Yes. Just something to consider.
Yeah.
You are working towards black betterment.
That's right.
And your efforts towards black betterment appear to be being perceived as anti-equality or anti trying to move forward.
Said that?
Okay.
Well, just overall. Overall.
Just go into the YouTube comments after this video and you'll find an abundance of those.
What I'd like us to consider that black betterment, if somebody believes that they are white or whiteness, whiteness cannot allow blacks to be better. The maths doesn't work.
Well, sorry.
Because hold it.
The existence of the Democratic Party in the United States shows.
These are heavy statements. These are heavy statements.
Let me say his point and then jump in.
Yeah.
Okay, just let him say it's probably false, but let me say.
I'm saying that whiteness itself is a faith, is a belief system. When you identify yourself as white, you are putting yourself with whiteness. Now, when somebody within that system tries to do black betterment, right? It can't work. You're going to come up against opposition because black betterment in whiteness, blacks are supposed to be down.
I disagree with that. I think that the existence of white and black, they need each other. You can't have black without white. I think that the purpose of black betterment is to sort of bridge this gap. There's a difference between how people are treated, how people are existing, the quality of their life, the quality of their expectations. That's what a lot of this comes down to, is expectation. When you were brought into this world and like what you experience and who you see and spaces you go into, what you expect and what people expect from you is different because of the color of your skin. And for black betterment, the point of that is to change that expectation. Now, we know what we expect of ourselves, whether you're from the US, whether you're from here. It's about changing that expectation, our representation, and how we're seen everywhere. So I don't think there's anything wrong with whiteness. I got a
question. I got to agree with everything of this.
I got a question. So it's about the education of a slave is good then.
What?
Yeah. So the education of a black slave is good.
Well, we don't have any black.
What color is your skin? You said the color of your skin. What color is your skin?
My skin.
What color is your
I
skin?
identify as a black person. My skin's brown.
Your color of your skin's brown.
Yeah.
So then, when you look up the color brown, do you know what that means? What does it mean? It's a color, right?
When I say
Yeah. So look at their color, right? What's the color of your skin? What's the color of your skin, mate?
I tend not to pay a great deal of. I mean,
that's
I
the whole
don't
point.
choose my
But that's the whole point. Because but listen, I'm only using this because these are the words we are using. We're using white and we're using the color black. If we wasn't using them colors, we need to know where we are going, where we're coming from, to know where we're going. Where does these words come from? What's the meaning of the power of these words?
That's right.
So look at the color white. Have you ever got a dictionary and looked up this color white?
Yeah, because that's how I live my life and judge people by the dictionary.
I'm asking you by the dictionary. What does the color white mean? No, look at Jesus. Jesus is not a pale Caucasian man. He was a Hebrew and he was a brown-skinned colored man.
I don't
written
mind.
in Revelations.
I don't care.
But I'm just saying, Now, when we're looking at we have the same color skin as what he just said, so-called Jesus, it now shows that we are the power lives among us, right? So now when they go and fabricate and color up the color of the skin being pale, pink or reddish, yeah, that's telling lies. That's now genderfied. It's now genderfied that they are powerful and that slaves obey your slave masters, like the Americans like to say. Oh, just slaves, just obey your slave masters, reading a couple scriptures. But that's the scriptures really meant for them, for the kingdom, because when the kingdom comes to us, they're gonna have to obey their slave masters.
Yeah. So, but I think the crux of the
Christians couldn't agree on whether slavery was allowed.
I'm only saying because he mentioned Jesus, right? He just popped out that word. Whenever anything goes bad for them, they want to call out Jesus to come and help them. But Jesus ain't going to come and help you because he's not the color you say he is.
We're going to talk about that. We need to recognize that there were voices from the earliest times within the Christian. I'm not a Christian. Within the Christian community said you simply cannot buy and sell human beings.
Okay, cool.
But the Bible never says to them they were Christians.
Now, guys.
It said they were Israelites.
Now, this is a good conversation. Hold on.
Yeah, but that's the nation of it. To embetter these people.
We're gonna move on because there was a particular topic, and these topics will go so good. What I'm saying is we want to conclude with another topic, right? And this is our corner. It's based on black issues, right? And black people find solutions, but other communities are welcome to learn and contribute. But the topic we're going to talk about is how as a community do we defend our women?
Content over everything from your melanin.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Listen. The topic we're going to talk about is how as a community do we defend our women? Yeah? And the reason why this topic comes up is because, first of all, there's always issues in all communities when it comes to protecting women, right?
I don't even listen to Sky, man. Man, just listen to COE. Man, just listen to COE. Man, just listen to COE. If you see me, it's COE. Content over everything. COE. Man, not even know BBC. Man, not even know ITV. Not even listen to the MUM. They just listen to COE.